So let's do a quick comparison about the different API testing tools available in market. What you see it in the screen is the list of API testing tools. You get it from Google recommendation. When you search for API testing tools, these are all the tools you will be seeing. We also have a different video about what is API testing, what we will be testing, stuff like that. So we already have a video. You can check my profile. So let's talk about these tools. So before coming to these tools, when you what we are discussing multiple times in the past as well, before selecting a tool you have to identify what you are going to do with that. What is your goal by doing this? API testing is an obvious goal, but also how you wanted to test. What is your flexibility of the testing? Are you okay with doing some UI based, using an UI and test these API request and responses? Is this good enough, or you wanted to automate it, and how much you wanted to automate it, how extensive your automation is supposed to be, how many people going to work on that, who is going to share. So all these conditions makes which tool is better for other. To be honest, all of these tools one way or another give a shareable, it's a basic expectation that a team can work on this. But some tools, for example Postman, have a shareable option. You can have a team, you can have a collection shared with the team, you can change, you can fork and merge, you can do almost everything like what a GitHub is doing. But when the suite grows, the number of endpoints and number of tests increases, Postman may not be a best solution for you. My personal recommendation, what I do, API is pretty much, it's best to test the APIs on a console. Do it on a curl call. That is your best solution. Quickly check it. When you automate it, the best way to do that, use any programming language to write it. With that in mind, in this list, probably Jmeter have a very good console connection, and rest assured, of course, you write the code in Java, and pytest, it's another framework which is available in using it in Python. Cypress is code based, so you have to choose code based tools is better than UI based tools for API testing, is my personal opinion. So let me quickly go through one by one. So Apache JMeter is very specifically, the core idea of JMeter is for performance testing. You wanted to simulate multiple actions, but when you can do a multiple action, you can do a single action for validations as well. So that's the way API JMeter comes into picture. It's there for a long time. Second option is rest assured. It's a Java library, and its core by definition, or at the initial stages it was generated or used for Java, and most of the automation frameworks have, like Java based automation frameworks uses rest assured because it's pretty much easy to connect with their system. So that's how rest assured comes in. It's a code based system. It gives you request responses, models, and easy level of validations and stuff. SOAP UI, very specific to SOAP protocol, or initially created for SOAP protocol. They might have expanded it for REST APIs and GraphQL. I haven't personally used SOAP UI for REST endpoints and GraphQL, but that may be possible with SOAP UI. But my experience is mostly using UI, like literally an UI based tool, a way of Postman in a different Windows application or a MacBook application. So that's one tool. Catalan Studio, it's another UI based tool which behind the scenes write the code in programming languages you select, and then you can manage it. Postman, pretty much kind of a standard for a long time. They started in, I think, 2007 2008, I don't remember exact year, but it was become a standard for a long time because it has collection shareable teams. Recently they moved fully to cloud, so you should have a login to do that. Previously it's not. Previously you can create your collections without having a login, but they make it mandatory for recently, like 1 year ago or something. And it's still mainly used Postman, so it has a UI. You can see these collections. Also they have a command line tool called Newman, where you can, one way or another, you can access these collections and execute them in a command line mode and stuff. Karate is a slightly different framework, but also very helpful. It's a code based framework which you can use it for automation. Swagger is more like started as the API definition development tool. Then they also have a Swagger UI which you can try these endpoints in localhost or your deployed environments. And apigee, it's all of the tools are pretty new after these top 5 or top 6. All our things are pretty new. When there is a new tool comes into market, this is what happens. They always improvise on existing problems, but obviously they might introduce new problems as well. So in my opinion, for these days, or at least last 5 to 10 years, whenever I go to a company and they need a API testing, I always go with a programmatic way. Whatever programming language is popular in that company, I just use that programming language and take REST library or Jest library or Insta assured. Based on that, I take a library and connect it with the programming wrapper, which will gives me enough information what I need. So first you need to think about what we want to test is pretty obvious, right? Like API, endpoints, response validation, requests, memory validation, and all those things. If you wanted to do performance, Jmeter may be a good choice to do that. If you don't need that much of a performance test, but mostly functional, but you don't have to do it on a circle CI/CD tool or fully automated way, or it's you are okay to duplicate tests and have different validations, yeah, Postman is a good choice. If not, take any programming language based tools and do that. And Cypress is listed in this, but in my opinion, Cypress is mostly for UI automation testing. I mean, you do UI and you do one or two API request collections. You send a request for, let's say, for creating data. You use the APIs and you send that request and you validate the data in UI. In that situation, using API routers in Cypress is a good choice. But if you don't need it, you don't have to go with Cypress for API testing. It's better to go with Jest library for API testing and use Cypress specific to. Both are available in JavaScript and TypeScript. It has a very good support. There is one other notice you need to think. The programming language, all programming language supports all libraries. That's the modern way of doing things. If they have Postman, Newman, and CLI, the CLI can be accessed from Java, JavaScript, Python. It doesn't matter what programming language you choose. All programming language allows you to support. One way or another, this can be developed in that. But you have to choose which tool is closer to your goal. That will help you do automation faster. That is the idea. And there are other tools like Insomnia, Ready API. So these are all the tools comes in recent days to solve some of the problems these long running API testing tools miss to. So those problems will be solved by this newly created tools. This may not be very intuitive. This may not be having feature heavy situations, but it will solve the core problem that we can automate an API testing with request response permutation validations. That's pretty much about popular tools. Maybe we might have to have a demo about each tool at a later point in time. That's all for now.